Have you ever stopped to think that maybe the universe is trying to speak to you, but you're making too much noise to hear it? I'm not talking about literal noise. I mean that invisible kind we carry around all the time, the endless thoughts, the constant notifications, the urge to fill every silent moment with something, anything. We've gotten so used to the noise that we're afraid of what might surface in its absence. But what if I told you that the silence you keep avoiding is exactly where the answers you're looking for are hiding? That in stillness, true, intentional stillness, you can finally hear what's been trying to reach you all along. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He explained it with clarity, but no one really talked about it. Or maybe no one wanted to. Because silence is powerful. It's subversive. It breaks your dependency on the external world and reconnects you to something far more profound. While the world constantly pulls your attention outward, silence draws you inward. And that's where the real shifts begin. That's when synchronicities show up. Those strange, meaningful coincidences that feel too precise to be random. A number that keeps repeating. A chance meeting, an answer that finds you the moment you stop looking. It's not magic, and it's definitely not luck. It's the universe speaking a language few people understand. Jung translated it, but almost no one had the courage to echo it. Today, you will. And if you're willing to listen and act on what you discover here, prepare yourself. The universe is about to respond in ways you've never seen before. There's a kind of silence that isn't the absence of sound. It's the full presence of self. It's in that almost sacred silence that the soul finally finds the space to whisper. Carl Jung, in his deep dive into the unconscious, recognized this silence as the ideal stage where the psyche's symbols become visible, because it's in the gap between one thought and the next that truth begins to emerge. Not the quick, surface-level truth you'd Google, but the kind that rises from deep within, the kind that comes from the unconscious, which observes everything even when the mind thinks it's in charge. When someone enters this silence, they stop searching for answers outside and start listening to what's been trying to speak from within all along. It's like turning off the outside radio to hear the whisper of the soul inside. Jung knew that dreams, images, and symbols, they all rise to the surface when the mind stops shouting. A simple exercise. Sit in complete silence for 10 minutes a day, eyes closed, just observing what comes up. It sounds easy, but you'll be surprised by what shows up in the dark corners of your own mind. And then, the unexplainable happens. Suddenly, an idea clicks, a gut feeling emerges, or a long-lost memory resurfaces with intensity. This kind of experience doesn't come from external chaos, but from the silent order only the inner world can offer. And the most curious thing? The more you cultivate silence, the more the universe seems to start speaking. Coincidence? Carl Jung called it synchronicity. But that's a conversation that gets even more interesting in the next part. Carl Jung didn't just theorize about the unconscious, he dared to say that the universe responds to us. But not with words or flashing neon signs. He spoke of synchronicities, external events that align with deep internal states, without linear logic, but with such precise meaning that it gives you chills. A thought about someone you haven't seen in years, followed by a sudden encounter. A personal doubt, answered by a random song on the radio. And all of it tends to happen when we're silent and present, as if the universe waits for the mind to quiet down before delivering its message. According to Jung, when we enter silence, real inner silence without mental noise, we break free from autopilot and align with a greater field of intelligence. In this field, past, present, and future seem to speak to each other. That's where synchronicities arise. They're not random coincidences, they're meaningful encounters. Jung believed the unconscious speaks the same language as the cosmos, and the more attention you give, the more these synchronicities appear, as if the universe is saying, now that you're listening, I'll keep speaking. These experiences have the power to change everything. One insight from a synchronicity can shift decisions, redirect paths, even save relationships. And the most fascinating part? They don't happen when you're rushing, distracted, or stressed. They happen when you're receptive. And to be receptive, guess what? You need to cultivate silence. But does modern life even allow for that? Because if there's one thing that competes directly with the voice of the soul, it's the noise of the world. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. The truth is, we've never been so connected and so disconnected at the same time. Noise is everywhere. Notifications, headlines, arguments, pressure, overthinking, even that little background music you play just to avoid being in silence. But the problem is, this constant noise deafens us to something far more important: the signs. Carl Jung understood that external noise drowns out the soul's subtlety. And if the soul whispers, how can you hear it in a world that's always screaming? It's like trying to hear a flute in the middle of a marching band. You can't. You get distracted by what's loud and obvious and miss what's deep and essential. That's why so many people feel lost, anxious, and directionless. Because the universe doesn't shout, it whispers. Ever tried walking down the street in total silence? No phone, no music, just observing the world? At first, your mind resists, but then it starts to notice patterns, repetitions, people, details, sometimes even messages. That's when the invisible starts to act. Mental noise is just as sneaky. That conversation you replay 1,000 times in your head, that harsh self-judgment, that worry about something that hasn't even happened yet. All of it takes up space where silence should live. And it's in that silent space that synchronicities are born. Jung knew this. That's why he sought practices that encouraged introspection. So how do you quiet the noise when you live in a world afraid of silence? That's the key to unlocking the next level. And a few simple practices can start turning that key right now. If silence is the portal, then practice is the key. And here's a secret few people talk about. You don't have to become a monk to activate synchronicities in your life. You just need consistency and intention. One of the most powerful techniques is silent meditation. No music, no mantras, just you and your own mental field. Start with 5 minutes a day. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and simply observe. Don't try to control anything and don't expect anything. It's in this space that the soul begins to organize the messages that have been waiting for your attention. Another simple yet powerful practice is contemplative walking. And here's the rule: no phone, no distractions, and a commitment to observe everything as if it were the first time. Jung said that symbols speak, so notice signs, words, faces, coincidences along the way. Often the message you need is scribbled on a wall or hidden in a conversation you overhear. And if you want something even more practical, start journaling intuitively. Grab a notebook, sit in silence for a few minutes, then write without thinking. You'll be amazed by the answers that surface. These practices don't just reduce noise, they tune your frequency. And when your vibration is aligned, it resonates with the symbolic field where synchronicities manifest. When that happens, everything starts making sense. You think of something, and the universe responds. You feel something, and an external confirmation appears. But is it all just a pretty theory? What if I told you there are real-life stories, including from Jung himself, that show this process working with near magical precision? Let's take a closer look. Carl Jung once treated a skeptical patient, locked in rational thought and resistant to anything symbolic. During one of their sessions, just as she was describing a dream about a golden scarab, something incredible happened. A soft tapping at the window interrupted the silence. Jung stood up, opened the window, And there it was, a real scarab. The insect, rare in Europe, had flown in. Jung caught it and handed it to the patient, saying, "Here is your scarab." At that moment, her defenses collapsed. That instant of synchronicity, in a space of deep silence and listening, broke through years of resistance. And it's not just the great masters who experience this. How many times have you thought about someone only to get a message from them the same day? Or been unsure about a decision, only to have a random phrase in a book or on a billboard answer you directly? These coincidences don't happen when we're stressed, complaining, or buried in our phones. They come when we stop, when silence takes over. It's as if in that empty space, the universe finally has room to speak. One of my students shared that after a 3-day silent retreat, he received a phone call that completely changed his career path. Coincidence? Maybe. But he only heard the call because he wasn't distracted by the noise of daily life. This kind of experience isn't reserved for Jung or for people who meditate 12 hours a day. It's for anyone willing to be open. And now that you know this, will you keep ignoring that power? Because believe me, silence isn't absence. It's the presence of something far greater. So tell me, after everything you've just heard, are you still going to call it coincidence when it's clearly a calling? Are you really going to ignore the chills, the signs, the synchronicities that show up the moment you finally go quiet? Because if you've made it this far, it's because some part of you already knows the universe has been speaking to you for a long time. The real question is, what will you do with that now? Will you start writing down the signs that appear? Will you pay more attention to the thoughts that come up in silence? Will you allow yourself to feel more and think less? Because once you begin to trust your intuition, everything shifts. And if you've ever had a moment that gave you chills, share it in the comments. I want to know, what's the most powerful synchronicity you've ever experienced? The one that made you stop and think, this can't just be a coincidence. And if this video sparked something inside you, if it resonated with you, then do this. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because in the next videos, I'll continue revealing the hidden codes behind reality, the unspoken messages, and the forgotten teachings of masters like Carl Jung. This channel is for those who want to break out of autopilot and start living with more clarity, purpose, and connection. And if you felt the call, maybe it's the universe whispering once again.